Good day, fellow artists, ladies and gentlemen. It's me again, Emmanuel Silva, for another episode of your Water and Technicolor, where we provide you with information to better up your skills when it comes to watercolor painting. Well, now, this is the second season of Pure Water and Technicolor, and I believe many of you must have missed the episodes way back then when it first started. Well, today, we have other topics to cover you just in time for those who are going to be what? Going on or enrolling their paintings to exhibitions and submitting them to various juried competitions. And I'll be aiding you into discovering what are the better ways into taking a good picture of your artwork so you can show them to the juries, to the judges, to the exhibitions, and of course, if you would just want them to share in the social media, that's very much what this is all about. So, without further ado, let's get it on and let's teach you the basics of photographing your work. Okay guys, so here we are in my studio. Today, I'll be teaching you how to take photos using one of the most basic things that you probably have with you right now, which is of course your smartphone. And smartphones nowadays always have their own cameras, and this is probably the one that you're going to earn most of the time if you don't have any professional cameras lying around. So how do you really take a good photo of your painting using this one? Well, starting with your phone, you just have to make sure that your phone is clear or clean in the lens in here. So if it's a little bit dirty, you just have to rub this one with a cloth to clean this one. So let me just show you that. Okay, so first with your smartphone that you have with you, it's probably with a lot of smudge, so you have to be careful when you're using your camera this way, because with a smudge on your phone like this or fingerprints, it could actually affect the output. So if you have a glass cleaner like the one we have here, you could actually use this one to clean the surface of your phone before taking photos, just to make sure you don't have those nasty finger marks or fingerprints in your phone. And then when everything is all set, just clean it, rub it, and everything is good to go. As you can see right here. There you go. Now, let's get to our painting. So how do we use or how do we take photos using your phone? Let's get into this. Okay, first take your painting, lay it down on the table, aligning it perfectly flat on the surface, and with a steady hand, aim the camera parallel to the painting, making sure that you capture the most inside the image area. Another thing to consider when taking photos is not to have unnecessary items laying around the painting. Cast shadows that create effects that is not part of the original painting, and also taking an image that is too skewed or slanted, which definitely distorts the image of your work. Sometimes we also have problems with paintings like this one that we have with me right now. So this one dried while this one was still wet, and it has left some waving or buckling in the paper. And because this one has waved or buckled, it's going to obviously have some distortions when you take a photo of this one of your work. So how do we remedy paintings like this one? Let's find out. Okay, so for us to work with this warp paper, we're gonna need a board where we can mount this one. So I have with me right now a plywood board that I have painted. We're going to rest this one here for now, and then after that we need to attach the side using masking tapes. Using this method, we make sure that the masking tape is still attached to the paper. Now we can try to wet the back of the paper while the masking tape is still attached. Using a flat brush, make sure everything is thoroughly wet. Let it sit and let the paper expand. So let's wait until this one expands, and then we're going to flip it back in the front. And then finally, we're going to flip it again on the front side, and then reattach it to our board. Carefully pressing towards the center, going outwards. This should get rid of your warp in the paper, and this makes everything flat and perfect for photographing your work. Okay, you can even make your photos a little bit more sharp and more precise by not doing a handheld shooting with your phone. You can actually use a clip-on like this to attach it to a tripod to make everything much more sharper. So a tripod is something that you have like this one, and there are other models that are less expensive which can handle the weight of your phone. So if you have an easel where you can lay your painting there and then attach tripod and a clip on your phone, that makes an even steadier footage when you're trying to take a picture of your work. So let's see how that is done. Okay, so here we are again back, and as you can see, I have here my painting in the easel. I have aligned this one perfectly on the board, and here's my clip that I attached it already to my tripod base. So with the phone, you just have to attach the phone right here. Make sure everything is attached there, and then I'm going to set this one on the plate, and then let's turn on my phone. Let's get to our camera, and then with the camera, as you can see, I have attached this one on my tripod. And let's go to expert mode, wherein you have full control of everything in your photographs. So in expert mode, you can see there, that's all the camera that's looking at, and it's going to fix it right there. Make sure everything is aligned perfectly with the image that you're looking at, and then I'm going to show you. Let's zoom in closer so that you see what I am doing with my painting. So you can see, there you go, it's perfectly aligned, everything, though we might have some there. Yeah, so everything is aligned, it's perpendicular, parallel to your camera. And then on an expert mode, you might want to use a timer with your shutter so you don't induce a shape when you press on the trigger there. So we have here at 3 seconds. You can actually set it to 3, 10, depending on your model of phone. So I have it here in 3 seconds. I think that's pretty adequate enough. So you can see you have an ISO, shutter speed, white balance. I think everything here is preset from the phone. As you can see, this is the entire exposure it's gonna look like after you take a photo. So let's press on the shutter, and then let's take a photo of your artwork. Okay, so that's perfect. Now, you might also consider that when you're taking photo, you have some lights, everything, you don't cast any shadow in your work. There's nothing there. Everything is light, evenly illuminated when you're taking a photo using your phone. So it all applies to the basic principles, the first one that we discussed before, when you're taking a photo of your painting. So what do we do with this one? This one is not yet finished. You can actually crop your painting or your photo, edit it, get rid of the excess borders. As you can see, that looks perfectly aligned. And that's perfect. Actually, you can even crop more on the sides, but that's not really that important anymore. So that's everything you have. You can also import your images to your laptop, computer, if you're using any other devices. To edit this one a little bit further, make sure everything is perfect before posting it or sending your paintings to your submissions, open calls. So that's how this is done in your phone. Right, so another way of taking photos is if you have a DSLR camera like the one that I have here, or a mirrorless interchangeable lens camera, or MILC. Now, with a DSLR, you're able to take a better picture of your work because simply they have better sensors in them. And if you have lenses like the one that I have here, so this one is an upgraded lens from a kit lens. This one has a wider aperture or bigger lens opening to gather more light. So I'm going to show you how to take pictures of your work also using a DSLR camera. So let's get into that. Okay, so right now I have here my digital SLR camera. This is a Nikon D3400. So this is an entry-level camera from Nikon, and if you have any other models, you can actually refer to them or to their instructions if you're operating this one or your own camera. This camera that I have is a Nikon D3400. Again, I've been familiar with this camera since the day I got this one. So if you probably own your digital SLR camera for a few months or years, you'll be familiar with its functions, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm just going to dive in. I'm just going to dive in on how to use this camera that I'm familiar with. So if you're familiar with your own camera that you're using, kindly refer to its manual on how to operate your own camera. But for Nikon shooters like the one that I have here, you can always refer to this one that I am using at the moment. So let's get into it. And first, what we need to do is, of course, mount your camera on a plate like the one that I have here with me. So basically, all you want to do is have your camera mounted on a base plate. Make it sure that it stays there securely with your camera like this. Okay, so afterwards, after getting your camera mounted on a base plate, make sure that you attach this one aligned on your tripod. Okay, so now I have attached the camera to the tripod. Let's get into the operation of this one. So basically, what you want to really do is aim your camera, turn it on. Let's turn it on. Let's see. I'm going to switch into live view so that I'll be able to see everything that I'm doing inside the camera. So I'm going to go to manual settings so that I have more control on the settings of my camera. So let's see, we are in the live view. Okay, so let's see inside the camera and show you how to operate this one. Okay, so here we are inside seeing the live view of the camera, and everything is pretty much overexposed right now. So in the manual setting, you should make sure that you shoot your camera in your lowest possible ISO. So lowest possible ISO will be here, you can see. Let's lock this one in position. And then let's zoom all the way in up to probably 35 millimeters. So my camera that I'm using right now is a Sigma lens, and this one is a zoom lens with a constant aperture of 2.8. And lenses like this one have what you call a sweet spot when it comes to the aperture. So a 2.8 lens probably is best suited to being stopped down by 2 stops, so that's actually 5.6. So at 5.6 aperture, your lenses should at least be sharper when you're taking pictures. Alright, so there are other improvements that we can do when you're taking photos of your paintings, such as the one that I have here in my back. Now, for those who want to take this one a little bit further up there in the fidelity of your images when it comes to your paintings, we have something that we call color card corrector. So this one is from Spider and from the Data Color company. So this one is a color patch sheet where you calibrate the image that's taken by your camera and then reproduce this one the most accurate way possible. So this is very useful when you are taking images of photographs of paintings or sceneries, and you want to calibrate how bright your exposure is to how dark the environment is and the other use of color in the palette, especially with paintings. That's very helpful when you want to reproduce or take the most accurate reproduction of the colors that you're seeing with your painting to the images that you have with your camera. So your camera, basically, if you have different brands, they have different color outputs. If you're taking JPEG pictures, the best possible way is, of course, always take photos in raw files for post-editing, but you can always do with a JPEG. Just make sure that you take the image or the photo in the best lighting condition as much as possible while it's exposed. But for those who are fanatics when it comes to color fidelity, RAW is the RAW formats for your pictures from your mirrorless cameras or DSLR cameras is the way to go. So I'm going to teach you how to use this one. If you happen to have one of these, we'll compare the images afterwards after I've taken this photo. So basically, what you need to do first is, when you're taking a photo of your painting, all you need to do is attach this one first to your painting or to the image that you're taking with before exposing it, just like that. Let's see again. Let's switch to my camera and let's see, and let's take a photo of our painting. Okay, so here we are once again with my camera set up, aimed at my painting, and we have our color card directly attached to our painting. First, we take a picture of our painting, again with the shutter. Okay friends, now we've taken the photos from our camera and then imported them in our computer right now. So we have them in our computer. So we're going to be doing some post-processing or editing of the pictures, not to make them look better, but actually to replicate it to be more accurate of the actual image or the actual look of the painting when we display them in your monitors like cell phones and desktops. So let's get into that. Alright, so we have here our images. So I have my program Lightroom open up into our screen right now. So probably most of you don't have these programs right now. So actually you can edit this one if you are happy with the just the JPEG files. You can actually use your own computer program. Say for example, your viewer has, if you're using a computer, a desktop computer like Windows or a Mac, they all have your photo viewers and they all come in with their respective editing programs or picture viewing programs. So you can actually just use those programs that we have built in. So right now in the Windows, just adjusting it slightly, tilting the image to get a better crop, removing the excess in the edges, making sure that everything is properly cropped, and then adjustments. It's a little dark right now, so probably a little brightness to the image or exposure perhaps to adjust everything. So it's important you don't blow out the highlights, entirely the highlights for your photos. So you can just save this one as a copy, and then, well, let's get to our folder and just rename this one Photo 01. So this is our photo from our DSLR camera that we edited. We also have our photos from our cell phone that we took a while ago. So we can also edit this one using same program, just using the viewer. So just going to click on this one and then wait for the image to show up. Okay. Alright, so we have a photo viewer. I think the best one from the bunch is this. So we're just going to hit on the edit tabs. So same with what we did with our image, and apply a crop to your photo. Okay, apply a crop to your photo, and that's pretty much everything. Save as a copy. This is, we're gonna just rename it Photo 02. Okay, so now right, we have our images that we have from our phone and from our camera. The better way to do this is, actually, if you have a program called Adobe Lightroom, so most of you who are into photography people know that this is one of the most used programs when it comes to editing or actually correcting your photos in the post-process. And when you're editing photos in the post-process, they actually are doing some tweaks into the color, saturation, and the light. But in this case, we're going to be using the Lightroom to tweak the photos to better sort in the orientation and the exposure of your images. So to do that, I have my Adobe Lightroom opened up. So I'm just going to click on all the images that we took using our camera, and of course also our cell phone. So just click and drag them in your application. You're going to see the check marks, click import, and it's going to appear in your list of photos in your library. So it's actually included to all your photos, list of photos in your library. And then on the develop tab, to edit this one, just click on the develop tab and you can see all the photos that you have. So in the bunch, I think we have the best photo from the second image, the one that we took in our camera, in our phone with our the camera phone. So we're going to develop this one and adjust this the orientation much more accurately, because the Windows program or the photo viewer for a Windows is a little limited in its function. So as you can see, the image is slightly tilted downwards. We will be correcting that by adjusting in the vertical slider, a few steps in the vertical slider. So probably 1 would be the best. And you also have your rotations. It's a little bit, it's not straight, so we're going to rotate the image just a little bit more. And then on clicking on this icon, you will be brought to your crop. We're going to crop the image on the tab, and there you go. Just click on or hit enter and your image is cropped. Now you can actually export this one after editing this. So just click on back to your library, export this image, and just name this one photo-03. And just, we have our default folder. Just make sure that you don't get lost where you're exporting image, and click on export, and it's going to export that image into our folder. Next, we also have our photos taken with our DSLR camera, and this is the most important part when using Adobe Lightroom in editing your photos. Make sure that you're taking photos with your DSLR camera in RAW files. Well, it's also okay to take photos with JPEG, but with RAW files like the Nikon Express format or the .NEF files, you're going to have more information with your photo that you take. So you can actually tweak it to the best saturation, accuracy, lightness, etc. So right there, again, click on the develops tab. This is our image. You know that this is a raw file just by the looks of it, because this one appears a little darker and underexposed. That's just because the information from a raw file like the Nikon Express format, they have more information. So having an underexposed image is actually a lot better than an overexposed image, because you can recover the details in the underexposed image much better, especially the shadows, compared to an overexposed image. That's why this one appears a little darker. The camera actually has, my camera is actually set to compensate for the image so it's a little bit underexposed by 1/3 steps of light exposure or EV. So hitting again, going back to my image, you can see just going to hit on exposure tab just to bring on those highlights and lights. And as you can see in the histogram, we have our highlights here and the darkest shadows here perfectly balanced. So you know that this one is overexposed when you move the slider towards the right side, and those colors appear more higher, or the slope appears higher in the right side. So we're looking at a much better exposure here. So everything here appears really balanced. So an underexposed image, everything is skewed towards the left side. So we're hitting the balance between the light and dark side, the lightest points and darkest points in your image. And going back again to the transform tabs and the transform section, you see that the image is skewed. So we're also going to correct it in the vertical orientation and horizontal orientation. This one is not balanced in the vertical orientation or horizontal orientation and vertical. So we have our sliders applied right there. Rotation seems to be pretty okay. The paper is not too straight, so just clicking again on the crop, we're going to hit on that. And sliders, it's pretty much okay to crop a very small portion of your image when you're painting. This is much better than showing off the borders. So just click on enter and see if you still have small borders left. So we still have a little bit on the borders. Okay, so that's how you do it. That's how you crop your image. And then just like what we did with our image from our cell phone that we took, we can just export this one all together to the same location and just rename the files differently so you don't overwrite the first photo that we did. So we're going to have a little comparison at the end. Okay, so if you remember, before we took our last photo, we did some color corrections using our color corrector card, which is a spider checker. I think I bought this one for around 3,000 pesos, or that's around 30 USD. And this one comes in handy when you want to have more color accuracy when it comes to the photos that's coming out of your camera, because your camera, just like what we have in an Nikon D3400, they have their own color profiles baked in, so they appear a little more saturated to make it more appealing. But sometimes you want to be the image to be more accurate when you're displaying them or submitting them, and this is just one of the ways that you can do with more accurate colors. So again, there are a lot of color corrector cards available right there. There's also X-Rite. I have the 24 color checker from Spider Checker. So this is, they also have a 48 colors, but this one is the one that comes into my budget, so I purchased this one just to have a more faithful color reproduction or of the photos that I'm taking whenever I shoot images, and also when I take photos of my painting. Okay, so how do we use this one? Going back to my program, you can see this is the image that I took with the color corrector displayed on image. So this one works with the proprietary program of DataColor to calibrate the colors that you're getting out in your camera. So right now I'm going to crop everything here, just including the or just having the color corrector, the DataColor there displayed. And okay, it's a little skewed again, so we're going to rotate the image by slight degrees, okay, to on the right. And we want to make sure that the one in the top is not included, the one with the tape. We just want the squares and the color cards, and hit enter. And as you can see, if I hover my mouse just right above the upper section where you have the whitest part, you have 60-68% color right there on the RGB. So we would want to have that close to 98 or 95 if you must. I think 98 is too bright, so just hit on the exposure tab to adjust the exposure, and as you can see, we're having a 94, 93. There you go. We are almost having the R, G, and B values close at 95. So probably this is the best setting so far. Next, I'm going to hit on this small icon, the white balance selector, so to get the warmness or coolness of the image just in the neutral zone. So I'm just going to hit this gray area here of the patch card, and it's going to bring up the image into a perfect neutral tone of colors in the color balance. You can see we already have those adjustments. Next, and as you move your mouse towards the lower part of the image, you can see that we have an RGB at 4-5%, and I think this is actually close or perfect for the shadows that we have. In the case that you don't have those values at 5% or so, we have the black sliders. You can see it stretches up the dark parts further, so we have a little bit on, when you move the slider, we have 33, 36. We don't want those values, we just want to stick with the 5%. So there you go, we are near 5% values. I think this is perfect. And then after having this image, we're going to go on to the develops tab, hit on in the photos tab, hit on our photos tab, and then click on edit in, and then you have the list of the program installed for this one, for the color corrector, which is Spider. Click on Spider checking editing, edit with copy with the Lightroom adjustments, click edit, and then it's going to open up the program to make a color profile correction for our photo. Now we're going to use this calibration preset to tone out the images, the color values of your photo that we took with your camera. And then with the program, I'm going to click OK. Make sure that the patches, the color patches align with the image. I mean, probably if your image is tilted on horizontal side or landscape, you might want to first edit it in a vertical format with the white ones in the upper or the top portion in your Lightroom before going into this one. So you see we have colorimetric mode. We don't need any other profiles for now. This is the most basic one, and then we're going to save the color correction profile to Lightroom, save calibration, rename this one, say WaterNTechnicolor. This is our program, so this is our color correction, and click on OK, and it's going to make or import the color profiles for calibration, and then hit quit. And then for that to take into effect, we just need to close our program again and then relaunch it. So we're going again, opening up the Lightroom. Okay, let's close first our images. Okay, so our Lightroom is taking up. And then just wait for when the Lightroom opens up, just wait for the notification to show up that the profiles are loaded. So it's going to take a little while, and there you go. We already have the color profiles. Now, going back to the image that we took using our color correctors, you just have to click on this one and then look on your presets. So you have your presets here. Just close them close those. It's going to be under user presets, and since it's letter W, it's WaterNTechnicolor. That's what we have. If you see, if we click on this one, it actually changes the color of your photo. So again, if you click on the color, the original preset, the natural, it appears a little more saturated with those colors baked in. But if you hit this one, the color profile, the calibration that we did for our image, it's going to bring up the tones, values, saturation, and luminance values of those colors to a more accurate form. So as you can see, this is coming a little closer now to the original image that we have with our photos. So depending on your monitor where you're viewing this program right now, this might appear a little bit more saturated. It's best to view this one with a color calibrated monitor as well. So with that, I'm going to hit on the library, export again the image, and we're just gonna name this one Photo 05 and export it. And okay, so there it goes. Let's see, let's compare the images that we have of our photos that we took from using our camera, our DSLR, and the color calibrated one. So the photo that we first have is the photo 03, which we edited using our Adobe Lightroom. And there you go, this one is straight out of the camera. It's looking pretty good. I think this one will be adequate enough if you just want them to be posted in your social media. Don't need any fancy stuff. You don't want any of those color calibrations. This is okay, straight from your camera. So but be wary that some of the camera phones that we have, like iPhone, Samsung, they also have other color calibration or color matchup, so they might appear a little different. So sometimes those also take into account those software corrections. The next one that we have is straight from the camera without any color correction. The Nikon D3400 looks really beautiful. The greens are really, we really have some verdant greens. It's very saturated and bright and sweet there. But you know, this one looks a little exaggerated. It might look appealing to the eyes, but again, comparing it with the corrected color profile using an Adobe Spider Checker, you see this is the more accurate representation of the photo. And if you compare this one with the one taken on the phone, this one is more accurate when it comes to the color images. So there you go, folks. Those are the proper steps to ensuring that you have good image quality or proper reproduction of the images from your phone or camera to your designated JPEG formats or any other formats that you might be using for submission or for posting your social media. Again, this is Emmanuel Silva. Thank you so much for staying tuned. for Water and Technicolor, where we provide you with information to better up your skills when it comes to watercolor painting. See you on the next episode. Thank you guys. God bless you. Always have fun. Keep on painting.